And we are live. No song and dance. I'm so used to, I was telling Kat just before we went live, I'm so used to doing the interviews with Book of Experts. So we have the jingle, the music always happens. Then I have to come on, bring the energy in a big way to get us started. None of that today. What this is today is a book club. So if you're expecting something else, you're in the wrong place. This is, the Experts Never Chase Book Club. This is part of our promise and delivery to the folks that supported us. And we thank you, because if you followed the story back in May, we started it in April actually, but it came to fruition in May. We did our Kickstarter campaign. Didn't have to. It was one of those things like, hey, let's do this fun thing. But we did the book launch with a Kickstarter. And with about a week to 10 days before the deadline, we were at 22% of goal. We ended up finishing at 131% of goal, and it was because of you guys. A lot of people pitching in to support and helping us get there in a short amount of time. So long story short, we very much appreciate that. And it was probably one of the coolest things that I've been involved with, because I've told a lot of folks, it was like an old-fashioned barn raising, right? People just came together to get it done in different ways. Some people pledged and supported, pre-ordered the book. We'll talk about that in a moment. But others interviewed Kat and I. Some of you guys shared and talked about it. Like it just came together in such different and unique ways. So we really appreciate you. You are now memorialized in the book. The last pages, so we uploaded a new version of the book. Yeah, that's you guys. See all the names in there. Big thank you, and folks supporting in different ways. So
like that away right now. I just have to say something. It's too much.
So anyways, here's the deal for today. The last week we did our first of 4 of these sessions. Last week was on Zoom, smaller group, more discussion format. Today we're doing the book club. You still get to ask your questions, but we're going to take them through social media instead of bringing everyone on the screen. So pressure's off. You don't have to put your camera on, all that stuff. But you can put your questions into the comments. We'll be talking about the book, particularly the first half of the book, because we have a second book club scheduled for July. Next week, same time, same place, we're going to talk about Kickstarter. We're going to talk about why we did Kickstarter, what we learned from doing the Kickstarter that we might do differently the next time. We had a lot of folks ask questions about that. So we thought it would be fun to do a bonus session for you guys about Kickstarters. It seems to be a trendy, like people were just really curious. But so now that I've rattled off like 3 minutes of dialogue, not a monologue, I should say, Kat, welcome.
Thanks.
Sorry about that. I don't usually do it, but I do try to pre-frame where we're going with things today.
No, totally. I've been flipping through our book. I'm always in awe still. I mean, it's kind of conceited, but
tell us about the status, because a lot of the folks that will see this that are going to join us live, we're in a couple different places, so we may be picking up some stragglers. Some folks don't know what we're talking about. That's why I'm sort of explaining some of this. But for the supporters, give us an update on the books, the delivery, all that stuff, because I know some folks will be curious. I sent a message out this morning. I know you've been following up with folks. Just so you guys know, there's logistics, right? Kat's up in Maryland. I'm down in Florida. So we've had to coordinate some logistics, get the upload of the new book. So where do things stand?
So right now I have a stack of 100 and plus books like these that are basically almost ready to go. So labels are being printed. They need to go to the post office, that thing that still exists, They've also been super awesome, especially given current situations. There's lots of delays, things going missing, things popping up when we didn't expect them, all that kind of stuff. So that's just the reality of it. One of the biggest delays, I will say, is that we wanted to make sure that the names were in the back of the book. So if you happen to have bought a book, this, right? So the names and all that, we had said we would have the name, we wanted to honor you and memorialize you because you did step in. It's one of those people who they didn't really know what they were necessarily buying. They just knew us and they knew the quality of our work and just took it on faith that we were going to deliver something of value, which we do. And so basically we needed to wait for this to be updated, print them off and have them shipped here. First we've got to set going to you, then they've got to come up here, they're getting signed, all that good stuff. And then I'm going to put my 7 and 5-year-old to work. So yes, there will be child labor on your hands.
You are creating child labor as part of your support of the
if they're going to be creative, this is our creative activity for the evening. Take this. All right, step 1.
I have to tell you, I love this. I mean, this is what entrepreneurial families do. It's like all hands on deck. I want to say, so we've had a couple of folks jump into the comments already. One, I can't see you yet, but it says, can't see who posted this one, but got my hardcover copy today. Yeah, I've ordered directly through Amazon too. I wanted to, see that experience. My copy didn't have the sort of thank you page with all the names at the end. So that's, just be aware of that. If you don't see that in your copy, you might have gotten a print version. This is how Amazon works. They might have put the print versions in their warehouse near you that were without that. The ones that Kat is working on specifically, we talked about that earlier.
That's the only difference. And the people, anyone who supported at that initial level and above will get the version with the names in it. Also, a little caveat, if you're wanting to dive into it and you haven't been able to yet, if you're one of the supporters or sponsors, we are happy to gift you a Kindle version of the book as well. So feel free to reach out, and we've got a few sets of those already available. Happy to send those over. We just want to make sure it's something that you want.
Yeah, cool.
Because there are some, my mom supported, and I don't think she's going to read the Kindle version, so we're not going to go ahead and push that over to her.
Yeah. And you know what's amazing? By the way, Crystal, I put this up on the screen. Crystal, we see you. We see you, girl. She said, totally new here. Don't know what you're talking about. That's okay. This session that we're doing is a book club discussion. So if this is interesting to you, mostly we're doing this for the supporters of the Kickstarter because this is a give back. But if you want to ride along with us, I think you'll get some good value out of this. On the Kindle version of the book that Kat just referenced. One, if you're one of our supporters and if you don't already have that, we'll get it to you. Just let us know. 2, it's still 99 cents. So we've not played with the pricing. When we were doing, so this book has hit number 1 on 4 different lists in the Amazon, number 1 spot in 4 different lists. And one of the reasons that happened, which we'll talk about more next week, but one of the reasons is, we were playing with the pricing. We brought it down to 99 cents. So the price is high for the hardcovers, right? It's $27, I think, for the hardcover version. And we did that intentionally. One of my intentions when we wrote the book was, can we create the kind of resource? I have several books that I pull off my shelf often. I'm way more interested in the books that I read, reread, and reference than I am in reading a lot of books. So that was the goal, and one of the reasons why there is no softcover version of this book. It's hardcover is for that purpose. If you just want the information that's between the covers and you want to use it to go get a client, go buy the 99 cent Kindle version. It's the highest ROI you'll ever get, guaranteed.
Well, one of the important things is and I had the same thought process too, which is what's something. So I'm going to get some hate mail on this. I'm one of those people who I write in my books. I underline, I put little flags, right? I love hard on my books. And the reason is that there's, usually that line, that thing that creates motivation, that creates inspiration, that thing that was, oh yeah, I totally forgot that. Or, oh yeah, I forgot that I knew that. And that's what a lot of this has, are new concepts, as well as things that maybe you forgot, as well as looking at really specifically at structure, mechanisms in which you can actually, so there's templates and swipe, meaning use these as inspiration. Don't just copy and paste because it's going to look weird if you say insert pane here as part of the message that you send someone, right? But there's mechanisms in which you handle objections. We have the entire close script, right? We thought this process through, because a lot of times when people write a book, it's very narrow focused on one specific area, one specific thing, or they're so general, right, that they barely go to any kind of depth on any one aspect, so that it truly isn't helpful. Now, I know as entrepreneurs, we use our business as therapy. So, it's great in terms of personal development, but sometimes we need something tactical and practical, right? And so this is that thing that's always going to work. I tell my clients, this is the process, if you're reading it at a higher level, that people use to multiply their 6 figures, get to 7 and over to 8. Right? This is the same process that people are using at that level. It's just that they're not necessarily doing the work, but they've mastered the process that we've shared in the book, so that they can make sure that they have the processes and procedures in place that set other people up for success. So if you're looking at, I'm building my team, I want my team to be successful, the blueprint is in here. These are the things that you need to look at when it comes to scaling and leveraging your time in your business.
That what you're going to do with your team, let's put a pin in that one. That one comes in July because it's in the second half of the book, and there's a whole chapter about that piece. So let's put that one aside for today. A couple of things I want to mention. So again, one of our commenters said the suede-like feel of the cover. I agree. The cover's awesome, isn't it? Like I didn't know we were going to get that, but it has a really cool feel.
It does. And isn't that important though? I feel like an infomercial. Sorry. Isn't that important, Tobin?
There's a name for that. Do you know what it is? There's a
for this experience, right? And so
no, I mean for a cover that it doesn't have a dust jacket.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a technical term for it, but it's a good, I like that in a good book.
Right.
Kat, I want to go back to something you said. Let's take a time out for a second because I'm nerdy. This is interesting to me. Hopefully some of you guys who are, on the ride along with us will appreciate this too. Molly says, I just got the book on Kindle, excited to check it out. Notating in your books. I'm the same way. My books are much loved with a lot of scribbles in them. In 15 seconds, I'm going to tell you what I do with mine, and I want to hear your answer, Kat. And if some of you guys in the comments want to share what you're doing. David Taylor Klaus said it's called Casebound is the term for the covers. Thank you, David. I knew I had heard that once before, and you're 100% right. That is what it is.
Of course,
yeah, David. And if you guys don't know, David, you and Rusty did an awesome mixer yesterday. Like really one of the best small group, one of the best experiences. You guys need to make sure you get David in your newsfeed if you don't have him there. When I notate in the books, here are the 3 things that I'm doing, and I don't know if this makes sense to you guys, but I want to know what you guys are doing because I'll learn from you. I underline passages. That's not unique, right? Everyone, if you're writing in books, you're probably doing that. But the value of that is that when I reread books, in about sometimes 20 to 40 minutes, I can read a whole book again because I just read the underlined sections. Like super valuable that way. I found that when I find a passage, like a big passage that agrees with something that I want to reference again, but I don't want to underline the whole thing, I just put a check mark on the side. That's I don't know what that means to me, like an endorsement, sort of yeah, I'm on board with this piece. And if I need to reference it again, this whole section could be good. But the most important thing that I have found that I do is when there is something that I know I need to go back to and use, like actionable, I'm going to do this, I'm going to use this passage for something, I put a star in it. So a book might only get a couple stars from me, like in a section of the book, but when I flip through and find those stars, I know that there's gold there, and I'll even fold the page if I want to be able to look at it like this way. There we go. If I want to see where one of those pages is that got folded so I can find it quickly, those are how I'm notating in books. What are you guys doing? Kat, you're first. Oh. If someone wants to do comments.
I'm looking over the comments. I was like, yeah. I don't know. They're not answering yet. I actually follow a very similar process. I tend to, when there's something that I really like, what I'll do is I'll put a bracket around it because I want to know where it starts and where it ends. And if there's something important within it, because what'll happen is I'll start reading, I'll find a line. And so within that section, I might find the one line or two to also underline. The only other thing that I do and then I'll do the star at the really important places. The only other thing that I'll do as well is sometimes I will find the 1 or 2 words to describe what's going on there. Because if in my mind, I'm thinking, what was that way to handle that objection about, time? And so I might go and look, and I'll look for that star, and I'll look for where I'll have written time objection or something along those lines. So that really clues me in fast to what it is that I'm trying to remember or leverage.
Very cool. Jaylay says that she uses heart reference the same way her heart is my check mark kind of thing. And Kat, I really like your idea of bracketing. I think I should bracket more and underline less, and my books would look a little bit more. They'd be happier with me for that if I did that.
If I notice that I'm starting to underline, like,
yes,
then I'm like, let me just stop here and just do this whole thing.
Yeah, it's not just the length of the underline. I found I'm not very good at drawing straight lines, so my underline is like,
drunk reading again.
Okay, yeah, that's what it looks like, but it wasn't what was happening at the time. So let's do a couple questions. So here's the format, guys. You as supporters, even if you're just joining us because you found us by accident in the newsfeed, that's okay. We put this in a couple different places. Jaylay also says I'm a big sticky note in the margins kind of reader. Yeah, I don't do the sticky notes unless I'm actively working on a project. I've done that too. So mine are all like on the pages, but I'm essentially doing the same thing with my notes. But a couple times when I've had to produce a big project and I have like 2 or 3 sources, sticky notes get the job done. You guys can ask questions in the comments. We will take those in a moment. There were a few questions that came in prior to us going live. The last few weeks we've been talking with folks. So I have a few questions sort of queued up that are going to get us started today. But I just wanted to give you guys a heads up. As you're hearing this, you can throw your questions in. We'll make sure we cover those too. Kat, what do you have? I have about 45 more minutes today. How are you on time? I just want to make sure we
I'm totally good.
You're good? 45 minutes? Okay. Yep. So we'll go until the top of the hour.
Yep.
That's your time limit, guys, if you have questions. But this is just a reminder. This is part 1. Part 2 of the book club will be in July. I don't remember the date off the top of my head, but it's not the 4th of July. I know that. And next week we'll talk Kickstarter. So any questions, if you guys are going to ask questions about the Kickstarter experience or book publishing or marketing, launching, promoting, all that stuff, we'll sort of do that stuff. Jess Backman, that's a good one, Jess. He says, I can't decide who has better hair. Well, first of all, between Kat and I, we know the answer to that one. Right? Yeah, she's the rock star. She always gets the comments that way. But I'm going to, Jess grew up in Maine, so I'm going to say he's in my corner on this either way. I'm going to claim him. So.
P.S. The next book club is on July 14th at the same time, which is 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah, David, I hear you. You might not have, I put up this on the screen. David's asking, but we talked about this a little bit earlier. I won't go through it all again, but we talked about the logistics, where the books are, the signed version, and why your name is in our book, David. I don't know if you knew that. That was part of our promise to you. So we explained that a little bit earlier, if you want to go back and reference on the earlier part of the replay. So let's do some questions, because I've got some zingers, and I'm hitting Kat with these first. Kat, what didn't make it into the book that should have?
Oh, you said,
yeah, I know. Every one of these is going to be a knife twister, so I'm just warning you.
You had, so I mean, a little context, right? So essentially Tobin had written the book. Like, he had written a first draft of the book before
an ugly draft.
I was gonna be nice. I wasn't gonna talk about that.
We're keeping it real today.
So Tobin had written a draft before kind of, pulling me in, and like pulling me in wasn't this like hyper aggressive thing at all. Like, I was more than happy to. It was more about, are you sure you want to bring someone else who kind of does what you do into your book, like that you've already put your blood, sweat, and tears into? Okay, if we're keeping it real, what I will say is that the beginning of the book is a lot different than the end, meaning the end, as the book continued to progress, more of the original content was in there because it was really good. But there were definitely sections that I came in and just kind of looked at it from a different angle and added to. Right. So this wasn't, kind of, Tobin, what the hell did you do? Blah, blah, blah. But it was a concentrated effort to try to put myself into somebody else's body of work to make it feel equal, to make it feel like it was both of ours versus one or the others. So I will say that some of the things that I stripped out were things where you had made reference to other people's work, and where I was like, no, we get to own IP on this because we have our own iteration or variation that stands on its own, that I believe is even better than someone else's other's body of work, right? So it is unique to us. It is our spin and our angle and our way of looking at it. And so I thought that there was a need for us to kind of actually own more expertise than giving a lot of it away every time there was another thought or idea. I don't know if you've ever heard me express that before.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. And I would say from my perspective, I think, and I've said this repeatedly, the book is better for having both of us in it. There were 50,000 words in that first sort of rough draft that I went through. Doesn't mean there should have been. I mean, but that was sort of the form. And this was not Tobin's book that Kat edited. This was something that we co-created, and we did it in phases. Like a lot of books get written and rewritten and sometimes thrown out and completely written over again. This was a whole new creation after that point.
I think that was like one of the things that was causing a lot of, and like when I say like friction, it wasn't like you and I not getting along. It was more of us trying to figure out how we work together, right? Because I'm obviously very not aggressive. So I have an idea and I like to move forward with it. And when it's my business, I can do that. When it's someone else's business that I'm working in conjunction with, I don't want to bulldoze that other person, right? Because I can do that to myself and to my clients if I want to. But it's another thing when you're working, right, trying to create a collaborative experience, right? And this like totally goes back to all my corporate days and having to work with different clients and stuff like that, and trying to leverage. I mean, it's really interesting. I actually used our process on you in a way I didn't realize it until now, to kind of get your buy-in and move forward, right? So what did I have to sell you on? I actually had to create almost, I mean, and I didn't do this consciously. It was all subconscious. It was really hard for us to get going at the beginning. So I would go in and I would make like all these edits, and I was redlining and I was tracking changes. And it was just really overwhelming because I was trying to honor the body of the work without feeling like I was completely redoing it, essentially. And I remember we had a conversation where I was like, basically I asked permission and said, Tobin, can I just do my thing? Like, can I just take this and just like not track changes and just strip it and bring it in and, reorganize it in a way that I think makes sense to me? Because I felt like I was doing this to myself. I was putting too many constraints on myself to try to be nice. And I just needed to be me and to do it in a way that I felt would support the book. And we did these progressive check-ins of like, okay, so I would be like, all right, I just did chapter 1, go take a look. And we had the original version and then like Kat's edits, right? What I call Kat's edits, but it's your version and our version. And you would go in, and I remember there were certain instances where you're like, nope, that's not going, like that's gonna go back in. And I was like, not picking a fight. Like, you're letting me have a lot of free reign here. And so that's how we worked through a lot of those things. So I had to really beef up my car analogies because that's not something that I'm.
Yeah. And I actually don't either, but the 4 gears, I think we played a lot around 4 gear stuff. Yeah. Right. And change some analogies to make it more
in alignment, to try to keep with the flow.
Yeah. I'm not a gearhead either. I mean,
like
my dad was a mechanic, but I don't know.
I had some Costco appetizer things or like, and there are different stories. And I think that was the thing that was the most interesting, because I know, like, just based off of even our approach, that story-based marketing is I will even say is the most effective mechanism for marketing, right? And the reason is that story-based marketing helps create that sticky factor. Like, you may not remember the exact concept, but you'll remember the story of, me, being scared out of my mind from having taken a hitchhiker in the car, right? And what that has to do with your business and stuff like that. So you have to check out that. So stories like that like helped create that engagement, because a how-to book can be very dry in a way, right? Like, it can be like, first do this, and you're like, like, yes, great, I'll use this as instead of melatonin to go to sleep at night kind of situation. And so how do we create that engagement and that excitement and that desire to actually implement the concepts in the book? And so we weave the stories, we weaved our experiences throughout the book to kind of create a tapestry worth looking at, and that's something you'd be willing to hang in your home.
Tina, I see your question. You're up next. I'm going to queue up your question next. We have several others that have been submitted sort of prior to us going live, but I want to share my quick answer to that same question, which is what didn't make it in the book. I think for me, my answer to that is this is a constantly evolving work. So I think the book is more psychology than technology. There are things that are going to be constantly moving in the technology around us. So in the workshops and the trainings and the stuff that we do, like for example, last week we talked about Dex, that tool that you've probably never heard of, that feels like it was perfectly designed to tell you who to follow up with and when. There's no mention of Dex in the book. It's technology. It may change, it may not. It's sort of augmented to the book experience. But that kind of stuff didn't make it in there because it was intentionally, the book was written to be more psychology and to have a big promise. And just as an aside for you guys who are seeing this, here is a little hack if you want to get more visibility for yourself and for your business. This is something that I learned years ago. I can't remember who said this first. Maybe Brian Harris, maybe it was a Russell Brunson thing. I don't know. I saw it somewhere. But when you're learning a new skill set, wherever that information is coming from, and this book is literally the big promise of the book was read this book, and before you finish the last pages, if you're taking action along with us, you will have a new client from this. Like you will enroll a new client into the project, program, service, course, whatever you have going. You'll get someone new this way. And by doing that, you will have built a whole new level of confidence. That's for you. That's great. We want you to go collect that money, bring in the new client, help them get results. The world's a better place. But know this from our perspective, from Kat and I, if you share that you did that with us, what do you think we're going to do with that information? We're going to promote the hell out of you. Why? Because it validates the promise that we wrote into the book. Someone did what we said they should do with this information. They got results. That makes us look great too. Like we're going to have a big party together. So I think Brian called this like be the poster boy of somebody's program. But that's really
free visibility, right?
Free
in front of our audiences, and position yourself as your own authority.
Yeah. So Tina, I'm coming for you for your next question. David, very quickly on your comment, it's Dex, DEX. The URL is getdex, DEX. If you're curious about this, so most of last week's session, we did an hour last week, and I did a back end tour, talked about my setup in Dex, why I think it's the perfect tool for this. Even gave attendees I have a special code so that you can get 90 days of the premium version. It's not an expensive tool, but still, it's through my code, you can get a full 90 days to use this. It is the one tool that I would not give up right now. It's the most important thing. It is not a CRM. It's a piece that fits maybe on top of your CRM if you're using something else to send your newsletter and all that stuff. But it's the way I'm using it. I could not function. I could not do this work without it, because before people were slipping through the cracks, and now they don't because of that tool. But I don't want to go too deep on that for today's topic. The code I'm not sharing. Here's why, David. It's for you. It's in
there's a limited number of them
group that we created.
For sponsors.
Yeah, it's for sponsors, because that code actually cost me real dollars. Like my affiliate link plus some real dollars is what's getting you 90 days. So that's why that's why I'm not sharing it here, folks, because this is out in some other places today, just to give some value to folks that might not have heard about us, but you can't get all the value. Not today. Yes, they have, David. They also have they've done an integration with Superhuman just recently. So let me bring up, I keep promising Tina, so we'll do your question next. Tina said, based on the tidbits she's read so far, it seems the book can be used as a reference. What is the most efficient way to apply the concepts taught as she's reading through it? Kat, I'm going to let you answer first, and then I'll.
I mean, the most efficient way is like to do it, right, is to actually take the steps, because they're delineated in a very clear and concise way. And so at the end of every chapter, there's a quick summary, and then there's do this. So that would be the best way to actually implement it, is to take the mission, if you will, and follow through on the steps. And if you are a supporter, and this is for all the people out there who are supporters, that's what the group is for, right? Like, you can feel free to post a question, and Tobin and I are more than happy to support you to clarify a concept. I mean, it just helps us, right? Because when there's version 2, if we make edits, right, then that goes into there. It's a conscious thing that, oh, cool, awesome. There's enough people that have this question. Let's clarify it up. Let's add a little bit more. It might even be in a whole other chapter, right? And so, is it, what's this addition to? I was thinking. So that would be my best recommendation, is to look at the mission at the end of the book, and then post in the Facebook group for the book club, and get some additional support if that's what would be helpful for you, to make sure that you're getting it right.
Tina, I would add to that answer what Kat shared. One, there's a lot of examples in the book, but none of them are scripts. So if you take any of those examples word for word and try to use it as a script, it's probably going to fall flat. Scripts are not going to work. We all can feel it. When there's a script being used with us, you can just feel it from people. So the book is more about principles. For example, like finding the awesome in another person or getting on the radar with them. Those concepts are bigger than a script. And if you use the examples to find your own words in your own way to see the awesome in another person or get on their radar before you even connect to them. If you do those things, you'll start to see the results. And you're doing a great job, by the way, Tina. I've been following what you're doing, and you're doing a lot of things right, even though you don't realize it. You've come so far, girl. I'm so proud of you. The other thing I would say, I think, is this is like it's like building a muscle. So do a little bit each day or 3 or 4 times a week, whatever your schedule permits, but think of it like going to the gym. If you do this once and in a heavy way, you're going to be sore and you're not going to pick it up again. And then it's not going to actually work for you. And I don't mean the weight of the book. The book's not heavy, right? What I'm talking about is this idea of reaching out to people and building real relationships. First gear. There's a chapter in the book where we talk about first gear, second gear, third gear. If all you did was first, second, and third gear, you can build a big business just with that alone. You don't even need fourth gear. Life gets fun in fourth gear, but just those first 3 can do magic for you. But you have to build the muscle so that it, just like you go to the gym, you pick up a 75 pound weight the first time and you try to do curls with it. It's not going to go well. Right? You're going to be sore. You're going to tear muscle. It's like that's the same kind of thing here. You're not going to tear a muscle from doing outreach, but you might have someone pissed off at you that will never do business with you because of sort of a heavy-handed way that you kind of went about it without sort of building the relationship first.
I mean, and let's set expectations. You're going to annoy someone. You're going to reach across the wrong person. Someone's going to be in a bad mood that if you'd reached out an hour earlier, it would have been a fine conversation. I would say, like, from the mental dexterity aspect of things, of keep doing it, right? So the best way to do it is to keep practicing and building the skill set. As Tobin was saying, my version of saying that is everybody has a recipe for success. Everybody has a way in which they show up that supports their strengths. If someone were to do what I do and they don't show up in the world like I do, it wouldn't be in alignment, right? So we want to make sure that we're leveraging the right things. I have a way of speaking, and a lot of people have had this happen. I've had people steal my material, copy and paste my stuff, right? And it didn't work for them, even though it works for me. And the reason is because it's me. you can't be a duplicate of someone else. You can only be you. And I know, like, Tina, you're just this amazing, loving person. And I would say lean into that, show up in the world more so in that way, so that you attract the people who need that love and who need that support from you. And just show up with that thought initially. One of the best ways to do this is to think about outreach as if not you're trying to close someone, not you're trying, because a lot of people go into that hunting modality and trying to get a client. And it's not about that. Just almost take lead gen off the table and say, I just want to have really great conversations, because we know that when we have good conversations, whether it's that person or someone else, right, it opens the door to opportunity. And that's what we're looking for with lead generation. Lead generation isn't a one-dimensional thing. It's not generate a lead, have a sales call, close a client. It's generate a lead, have a call, which may or may not be a sales call, and identify the opportunity. Meaning you walk into a room and there's all these doors, and every single one of them is an opportunity. One of the door might be a client. One of them might be a referral partner. One of them might be, an affiliate. Whatever all of those things are, there's a plethora of opportunity. And every time you enter through that door, all of those same doors reopen themselves again as availability for you to be able to, again, knock on and all that. So that's how we take one lead and we generate an infinite amount of them, is by looking at people and seeing where's the service, where's the value I can give them, and then being open to receive too. And then leveraging these scripts and templates, right, as a way to start conversations. And then you show up in your strength, in your bold and embodied self, whether that's like a gold Oscar or whether that's a flower, right? Both of those things are beautiful. It's in the eye of the beholder.
So we're going to do one more submitted. Well, we'll kind of go back and forth between submitted questions and then comments, questions that are coming in through the comments. So, Kat, again, these are the knife twisters I'm going to give you.
He loves things to me.
What were you really nervous or anxious about that is in the book, that you put into, that is in the book, and you were kind of like, oh, you felt that inside?
It would be some of the templates, but one of the things I was hesitating with there were two things, and it's the close script, right? So it's literally pulled this from my system, pulled it, from what I share people, and writing it out and creating that mechanism to walk someone through a sales call. And the other one was the how to break out an hour of lead generation a day. And it wasn't that my was with the quality of it. I'm confident in the quality of it. My is with the judgment of other people, and them, like me potentially getting triggered with it's not good enough. There isn't enough information. Like, this doesn't work for me kind of thing. Like, I'm always coming from this place of service first. And I don't like it when people, not that they're not happy, but are in pain in a way, and it's not working for them. I feel a sense of responsibility. And of course I have to, it's a therapy session now. Like, I have to release that. Right. And it's just, you provide a certain level of value at a certain price point. We know that the process works. We used it both in our businesses. We've coached hundreds of people through this same process. And then, it's just a matter of implementation, and I have no control over that.
Yeah, I think my answers may be related to that. So when I essentially deliver the information that's in the book in the form of a workshop, it's a $3,000 experience on the low end. And then my programs tend to go up from there. So to put the best of that experience into a $27 hardcover or 99-cent Kindle, I had to do a lot of soul searching on that. Right? Like,
no, there's a lot. Like, there's stuff that I'm taking from my process, things that only my mastermind clients pay me, right? These are things that people pay me $24,000, $30,000 for. And I'm putting it, like, I was totally triggered by that, of being like, but usually what I tell my clients, right, is that thing that you're hesitating on sharing is probably the exact thing that needs to be in the book.
Yeah, I think that's where I arrived at that as well. So from a big picture, that would be my answer. And then I would also say, on a specific basis, I had some heartache around like specific phrases, scripts. I don't even think of them as scripts, but like literally specific wording that is in the book as examples. And it's not that I was hesitant to share that because it's magic phrasing. It's more like I've seen what people do when you give them an example, they try to use that specific example, and then it doesn't work for them because they have not injected themselves into the wording. They've not made it their words.
Yeah.
And so I just think I had a little bit of sort of anxiety, I guess would be the word.
I'm looking at some of these and I'm like, I can totally see that. Like,
yeah, in the right situation, some of the phrasing can literally unlock a person, and you can have a transformation in your world and theirs that can, it can move mountains, right? It can be this amazing experience, and then it can fall flat in the next situation. So there's a lot of energy between the words.
yeah,
I think that's important. And how we find that is, David said in the comments a little while, serving well, coming from that heart-centered place. I think when you recenter yourself there and come from that place and think about this material, I think you can find that. Yeah. So next question, we'll pull one from the comments on this. So this one says, what is the best way to find the people that most need you, and what's uniquely yours to offer?
You go first, Tobin.
My quick answer to this is, because we have a limited amount of time today. We've still got other questions coming in. The best answer to your question is in the book. And this isn't, just go buy. Look, when we're selling a 99-cent Kindle version, we're not making money from the book. That's not the intention here, right? But there's only so much we can do explaining it. And there's some pretty good, finding your right fit, your perfect prospect. There's a lot of that in this. Okay. And that was, I always say there's four big questions that I hear repeatedly that are answered in this book. Where do I find my people? Right. Once I find them, it's not such a big deal, but before you find them, it's a huge deal. And then once you find them, you're like, oh yeah, that wasn't the problem. No, the real problem is, how do I talk to these people so I don't send them running in the other direction? Until you solve that problem. Then that's not the problem anymore. You're like, yeah, that wasn't really it. No, my real problem is I am talking to those people. We're having a friendly conversation, but there's no business happening. What do I do with that? Right. And then once you solve that problem, again, and then the last one is, well, we need sales here. This has got to become a sale, right? How does that specific, how do you go from, we're talking about it, how do we actually collect money in this situation? So, and obviously not to be lost in the conversation, delivering the results, right? So it's this progression that goes through, and each one seems insurmountable until you're on the other side of it. I kind of didn't give the full answer. I used my time to put a bigger perspective, which is the question that you're asking is really just one step on the pathway, and the whole climb up the mountain is kind of outlined in the book.
Yeah. That's not a car analogy, so you have to work on that.
Yeah, I'm sticking with it. Boulders on the path on your way up the mountain. I'm sticking with it.
There you go. Right. Oh, my blind is open, and so we're seeing shades. This is why you're not supposed to use natural light as part of your lighting, guys, or you turn blue. This is why my video picture keeps changing. I guess I'm gonna be a jerk too. Like, I'm an overgiver, and I was ready to answer. Okay, first you do this, then you do this, and you do this. But I really like the way that you answer that in terms of that's really just the first question, right? And so, though that question tells me that there's other pieces of the puzzle that aren't in place, it doesn't mean that you don't have them, right? But one of the first things, and how I describe it to people, is when we have a puzzle, like we have a clear picture of where we're trying to go, first we need to make sure we understand that we know what we're building. But the first thing we do is we put the outline together, right? Because that's the easiest part. Then we group the colors in like colors, because we know, all right, well, this is the blue. Now the blue might have some water in it, right? Because this is an ocean and sky picture, but we're grouping the blues, the browns is the boat, right? And we're going to start putting the pieces together. And that's kind of what you're doing, which is, yes, knowing who your audience is how you find them, actually. So I'll give you that level of information. And then the next step is, what are you selling them? How do you get in front of them? What do you say to them, right, when you do engage them? And, my favorite thing is, how do you go from talking about the weather to whether we should work together? That weather to weather conversation is actually covered in the book. That's where most people actually get stuck. It's not really that they don't know how to find them. It's that they fear screwing up when they do. And so they need to feel like they have plenty of people to talk to so that they can feel safe about burning through conversations. So I would say focus on the quality, not the quantity, and really kind of start putting the pieces in place. So like you're grouping your colors together so that you can start really building your picture faster.
Okay. Next question. I'm going back to the hard. We have a hard pile.
Why do you do this to me? Guys, he didn't give me a heads up about this.
You didn't know this was going to happen today. Do you feel a little bit like a voodoo doll? Like I keep.
I do, because I'm like, fuck, is this the right answer?
No, this one actually is not as hard. What are you most proud of with this? Getting this book out here, this whole experience. What are you most proud of with this? That particularly people might not know. Like, give us the harder answer. I want you to search on this one a little bit.
I think, everything expands for the time that you give it. So when we first started talking, you were like February 28th, or what was it? What was the date?
21st.
21st. Oh yeah. My baby boy's birthday. So February 21st. And I was like, well, why? And he's like, is Tobin. That is his birthday, right? So it's an important milestone. He's delivered and released stuff within that time frame. So we were talking back in the summer, and I was like, all fine and good. And so I was working on it piece by piece. And then I had this plan. So I was taking off the last 2 weeks of the year, like, pre-Christmas and, post-Christmas kind of time frame. And I was going to like really knock through the book because we were going for this 21st, and it was in sight. I could see it happening, and we had an editor and we had the things in place to get it done. And then I got COVID. And so what that meant wasn't just that I was sick for a few days. My entire family got COVID. It was that then I had the kids, right? 3 kids, 7, 5, and 2 at the time. Were they? No, they were technically 6, 4, and 1.5, right? Or whatever. They were young kids at home. And I was having to, I had them for 3 weeks. That was the hardest part of COVID. It wasn't having it. It was having my kids alone for 3 weeks with my husband, because that meant that we had to be quarantined. The nanny, wasn't here. My in-laws weren't able to help. Like, it was just us. And since both of us are entrepreneurs, if we're taking sick days, we're not getting paid, right? So like, if the business isn't working, then it's not working for us, and we're not working for it, then it's not happening. And so that really put a big hinder. And so we had to like kind of course correct in terms of our ability, because then I had to catch up with work and make sure that I had, client delivery was going on at the same time, and manage all that stuff and get everything back and going. And so I think what the thing that I'm most proud of is that we did it good enough. We could have continued to tweak. I was even like, well, what if we did this last thing? You're like, it's good. And so to get something out there with a big promise. I mean, when you told me the promise of the book, I was like, Tobin, that's a big promise to be able to try to deliver on that. And it really made me step up in terms of what I was willing to share and the depth. So it's not that we took our time going down to the depths, is that we plunged in, right? And then we gave you the things that you needed to functionally move forward, right? So it's not that you were doing the best freestyle stroke or whatever it is. Some sections you might be dog paddling, but it's going to get you to where you need to go. And the quality is there. But there's always more that can be done. There's always more that can be expanded. There's always a different story I maybe should have thought of to relay or something along those lines. And so I think like my biggest accomplishment with the book is getting it done, because so many people talk about doing something. Anyone can write a book. I'm absolutely sure of that, but not everybody does it. Not everybody does something that they're actually willing to market, that they're willing to put out in front and say, I've written other books. I haven't really marketed them because I wasn't as proud of them as I am of this, because the quality is actually in there, and it's something that I'm willing to put my face and my name behind. How about you, Tobin?
Yeah. So I think there are 2 things that I'll answer my most proud of with two ways. One, something that you guys don't know, and Kat, you probably haven't heard this either. So this book started with the Kat mentioned I wrote a draft that I went to her and said, hey, let's do this. The book was already written in a rough draft, and I went to her, right? You heard that part. What she doesn't know is that this book was written full and complete probably 2 or 3 years ago. It had a different title, but it was what I was doing in my work at the time, what I considered the state of the art of going out and creating conversations to get clients. I had worked with a ghostwriter who had been through my program at the time, an earlier version of what I teach now. She had that experience of going through it and had written the book based on the material that I had produced, the trainings, the videos, the worksheets. And then on top of that, she and I had done a whole bunch of interviews. So essentially I had the book and I chose not to publish it. And I'm proud that this book is either in your hand, in your Kindle, or will be in your hands shortly, because it's honestly, this book will get it done. In the earlier version, even though I could have had all the benefits of being an author, having the title of, like, there's reasons why people write books that help our businesses, right? You guys, some of you have done that. Some of you already know that, or you could at least guess at why someone might want to do that. I could have had those benefits, but you wouldn't have gotten the benefit of it. So I'm proud that I basically threw that version. And by the way, no fault of the ghostwriter. It was me. The information of what we were doing at that period of time was not good enough to get consistent results. So that's why it went in the trash. It was on me that I put together a program that was pretty good. It's pretty good. We were doing some cool, interesting things, but it wasn't until I went out and really sought out what I consider to be the world's best mentors and teachers in this space to learn from them. And my experience with them has been that they in turn looked at what we're doing, what Kat has done in her programs, and some of the unique aspects of what we're sharing in the book and in the work that I've done, and said, I don't know anyone that's doing this. This is now state of the art, world class. I'm not saying we're better, but we're right there with them. If somebody else is doing something more cutting edge, I don't know what it is, because I went looking for it and I didn't find it. The other thing, I'm pretty darn proud of what we did with the Kickstarter. And David, I just want to shout out to you, because you'll appreciate this, because the Kickstarter was we helped get it done with your help. But part of one of the things I had to do was the naked ask. Like, I had to be really uncomfortable reaching out and telling people, if I need help, we're not going to get this done without you. And there was a big swallow in that. So I'm proud of, that we use the process that's in the book to accomplish something that I've never done before, which is a successfully, to hit goal on a Kickstarter campaign. And if you guys don't know why this is a big deal with Kickstarter, you can be at 99% of goal. And if you don't hit 100%, you lose it all. They refund all those orders.
Let me add another thing to that too, which is, it was done within roughly 48 hours. Hitting 100%, and then we did a little bit more. And of course, we were trying to, honestly, we were trying to get to 150 because we wanted to do a stretch goal, and we didn't hit that. But it was we wanted to see if this was possible, right? And this is total credit to Tobin in terms of, this is how Tobin thinks. He's always looking at what is a unique mechanism in which I can start a conversation. And so one of Tobin's greatest gifts is being able to pull together different things in different places and kind of create a cohesive story and experience for his clients, and finding a pattern where patterns aren't really necessarily there. And then pulling in the resource to help continue to bridge whatever gaps might be existing. And so, his ability to be resourceful and to find the right thing and to see it's kind of, we can't see the forest from the trees. And that's what Tobin's able to do, is to see that. And so, not to blow my ego up thing, but I think it was one of the reasons why you decided to bring someone in to support you with the book, because it wasn't getting to where you wanted it to be, given that you'd been kind of sitting on something for 2 years.
Yeah, 100%. First of all, thank you for those kind words. And that guy sounds awesome. I don't know who he is, but I want to meet that guy. He sounds like he's doing some really interesting things. I appreciate that. And I think that yes. I got to a place with the material where I just collaboration is not easy. If you guys
I believe
have
what you
done
said
this.
was, I can't fucking look at this anymore.
Yeah, I was at the point I just didn't want to look at it anymore. I was actively working with the material in workshops, and the biggest part of my piece of the book has literally come from what questions that were asked in the workshops, what I knew, like that ugly draft, 50,000 words that we talked about earlier. It was written as a bunch of love letters to people, like literally clients, prospects, people that I knew that were really struggling, experts, subject matter experts, brilliant people who were starving in their business because of this issue of not having the steady flow of clients that they need. And truthfully, I'm one of those people. That's where the book started. My experience with the book started with that too.
I mean, I think that's one of the interesting things is to see, kind of writing in retrospect, right? And being like, all right, wow, where was I in that place? And it's not like that we were in that place 20 years ago, right? It's not like we were in that place yesterday. But a lot of times when we're looking at people who are well up, in the billions in terms of their businesses and stuff like that, they are so far away from where they used to be that they can't connect to that place. One of the things that I love about what we do and what this book does is it's timeless. So it doesn't matter what economic situation is happening, what political strife might be going on. At the end of the day, relationships are always what have and what will continue to build I was going to say billion, but multi-million dollar businesses, right? Like it's really the sky's the limit because it all starts and continues with this exact process.
Yeah. So David said in the comments, write the book that you need to read. 100% David. If I could have found this damn book, that
was kind of your motivation, right?
Like 2 or 3 years ago, if I could have found this book, I wouldn't have written the damn thing. I would have bought it, and it would be one of the books would have notes on all the pages. So that's not saying it's the greatest book in the world. It's just saying it was a real felt need. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a last call. We have 2 minutes till the top of the hour. If you have a question that you feel has not been answered and you want to get it in, this is your last chance. Just be aware that if you ask the question of the century, you may not get the answer of the century in 2 minutes. Here's what's going to happen next. Well, I'm giving people a couple minutes to think about that. Next week, Wednesday, 2 p.m. Eastern time. That is when we will do essentially the mini workshop. I don't know if we'll broadcast it like this or if we'll do Zoom again. Well, Kat, you and I'll have to circle up on the best way to do that. But we're going to do the Kickstarter experience, what it was like on what we were seeing on the back end. It was a real learning experience. I walked away with I'm still sort of unpacking the insights that came out of that. Things that I didn't even expect. So we'll be talking about that, why you might want to do one, when you might not want to do a Kickstarter, I think is equally as important. That's next week. Then we're going to take a couple of weeks off. We have the holiday here in the US, where I'm actually moving in that period of time. So we got some busy time there. And then we come back like mid-July with a Wednesday, again, 2 p.m. Eastern time. We'll do our part 2 of the book club, which is, if you're just reading the book now, or folks haven't received their hard copy and they're excited for that, you're going to get a chance to get your hands in it, get your hands dirty, talk to people, come back with real questions that will help us help you deliver on the promise of the book, which is go get a client with this.
There's a good question in there from Michael White.
Oh, Michael. Yeah.
Michael, sorry. If it was 30 minutes from a bomb exploding and you could only read one section of your book, which one would it be?
Oh, that is kind of interesting. Do you want to answer, or do you want me to jump in first?
Go first.
The 4 gears of marketing is really important to me, Michael. Like it's just such a key concept to setting up everything else that to me, the book, without that piece, I'm not sure how it stands. But in the appendix, there is a section on the reverse gear. And if I could only take one thing with me, you can back yourself into a sale What I mean by that is you don't even go into the conversation. They're not expecting to buy something. You're not expecting to sell it, but you can go in with a different agenda and back yourself into a sale by accident if you use just that piece in the appendix.
I haven't thought about that one. I mean,
that's a pretty damn good answer too, isn't it? I'd buy the book on that.
yeah. If I said that, so if I said, yeah, I mean, I agree, but then I also don't want to not say something. So I guess my very close second would be getting on the radar, right? Of, it's one thing, if you know how to sell, that's great. Or if you kind of know how to sell, right, that's great. But how do you get your ideal client's attention, right? And in a way that's not like sleazy, spammy, or salesy, but in a way that gets them saying, I want to know more, and maybe I do want to work with you, kind of thing. So I would say that one's really, really important, especially if you're not super confident with how to start and, continue the conversation with people online.
I love people who know their numbers. Like, I think that's just such a geeky, nerdy thing to be able to break down stuff. But I have to tell you guys, it drives me nuts. Like I just want a different side of me wants to come out, a side that you guys don't see very often, right? When people start talking about, I'm going to give you a specific example, LinkedIn, sending connections, and they're talking about connection rates in their 20, 30, even 40%. You're doing more damage to yourself. If you're seeing those kind of numbers, because I did this earlier this week. I had a group, a batch of people that I wanted to connect with. And so it's unusual for me to send a bunch of connections at once, requests. Mm-hmm. I rarely do that. But if it's less than 90%, I've messed up in a big way. That's what I'm seeing. And that the difference is what Kat just said. Get on the radar. They've already heard from you. They've seen your face. This is not new. It doesn't surprise them. If they're hearing of you for the first time on a connection request, your process is broken.
That's when you get those 20 and 30% connection requests.
Yeah, because they're already they're in a Heisman stance. You know what I mean by that, right?
Jesus.
All right. On that note, we're wrapping up for today. I finally got the laugh out of Kat that I was looking for. All day, all week long, I've been shooting for that right there. We'll see you guys on our next episode next week, 2 p.m.